Hey Divi Nation, thank you for joining us in this live stream. Today I will show you how to create a blurb menu on hover or click with Divi and the Sightseeing Layout Pack. So if you haven't checked that out yet, make sure that you do have mentioned a link in the description below. And if you're not an Elegant Themes member yet, make sure that you check out Divi. I've mentioned a link in the description below where you can go to the product page and discover everything for yourself. And for those of you who have been watching in the previous live stream as well, YouTube was frozen a bit, and let's retry this and hopefully it works this time around. So let's get to it. All right, so before we start off with anything else, let's take a quick look at the Sightseeing Layout Pack. So if you want to lay your hands on it, you can go to elegantthemes.com/layouts. If you go ahead and scroll down, you'll come across the Sightseeing Layout Pack, and if you click on it, you can see all of the layouts that are available. And you can click on the blue button which says View Live Demo to see all of the layouts in a live demo and see for yourself whether or not you want to use them before actually installing them. And what we'll do within this live stream tutorial is create a blurb menu. And what does that look like? Let me just show you really quick. So we have two variations. We have a menu on hover and one on click. So there's a slightly different approach going on. And let me just show you guys the outcome. So this is the hover one. And if you hover it, these menu items show up. And if you don't hover it, it goes back to its original state. And the click function works slightly different. If you click on it, it opens, and then you have to re-click for it to close again. And let me show you guys what it looks like on smaller screen sizes as well. So let us just take an iPhone for instance. If you click on it, it opens, and if you click somewhere else, it'll close. Let's just take a look at the click version as well. So again, if you click, it opens, and then you have to re-click that same icon for it to close. I just want to see if everyone is able to follow. Alright, so it looks like it's lagging a bit, but it'll probably improve. Okay, so if you want to recreate this particular blurb menu design, keep on watching because we'll do that within this live stream. And the first thing you will need to do is add a new page using one of the sightseeing layouts. And I've already done that here, but it's also important for you guys to turn it into a blank page. So let me just open this with the backend. And over here, within the page attributes, you can select blank page and update it. And now I'm going to edit it with the Divi builder. So you can basically choose any layout of your choice, but this is a use case and we're using the Sightseeing Layout Pack for it. So we're using one of those layouts, and it looks really good for this particular layout pack. It really gives that extra interactivity. It looks really good, and you can customize all of the modules that you display in it. So we're using it to display the Blurb modules in particular, but you can really use it for anything you want to show. All right, so once you're there, you will need to add a new section to the bottom of your page. So I'm just waiting for this to load really quick. Okay. Don't restore. And okay, so go ahead and scroll down to the bottom of your page, whichever page you're working on, and add a new regular section. So basically what we'll do is we'll use one section to recreate the entire design and make it sticky. And we'll also have to tweak some settings to make sure that it's fully functional. And once you've added the first section, you can open the section settings. So we'll start off by making some changes there using a almost entirely white color, so you can see that over here. That's the percentage of transparency that's going on. So there's only 0.02% transparency, but I like the effect because it just shows through a little bit, but you can use any color of your choice really. And then we'll go to the spacing settings. And over here, it's important that you remove all of the default top and bottom padding of the section, because later on the post, once we add this first module over here, so we'll use a text module for this, we want it to show up at the top of the section instead of having some default padding going on there. And the next step is adding a box shadow. So we'll increase the blur strength over here to 18 pixels on default value, and then hover will be 1000. And this will just, help create the depth you need for people to see the difference between the menu and the page content. Then we'll move on to the visibility settings over here, and the way we'll approach this is we're going to play around with Divi's height option and the overflow option. So we'll hide everything that goes below the height that we set, and to make sure that everything is hidden in the normal state, as we can see over here, we'll need to hide the horizontal overflow along with the vertical overflow. And we'll also increase the Z index to make sure that it overlaps all of the sections on the page. All right. And once you have those basic steps, you can start adding any content you want to the section, but it is important to bear in mind that it has to fit a 100 VH viewport. So that just means like it has to fit in the height of your viewport, whatever kind of viewport it is. So to be able to accomplish that, we're going to use VW and VH as the values throughout the tutorial. So we'll start with a new row, and this row will only contain the menu item text module. But first we'll need to open the row settings, and we'll make sure that it takes up the entire width of the screen. So this entire black thing over here is the row, and to accomplish that, we'll go to the sizing settings, and we'll use custom gutter width with a value of 1. And we'll also increase the width to 100% and the max width as well. All right, next we'll move on to the spacing settings. And again, we'll need to remove the top and bottom. Actually, it's the top and bottom margin. Okay, so I'll need to go back to the row as well. So these two, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but they've switched positions for the padding and the margin. And it used to be the other way around. So here we'll remove this. No, here it is, all right. So it's just since the column updates, they've switched around some things within the row and column settings. So make sure that you add 0 pixels to the top and bottom padding. All right, and once you've completed those row steps, you can start adding the text module. Let me just see if you guys can follow along on YouTube and Facebook. Just want to make sure. Right, so it seems that everything is going okay. So the only module we need in this row is a text module. And we're going to enter a symbol. Let me just grab it really quick, but you can also get this symbol by going to the blog post, which I've mentioned in the description below. And there you can also follow all of the steps and grab all of the color codes that we'll use throughout this tutorial. And then we'll go to the background settings over here, and we'll use a entirely black color, as you can notice over here. And then we'll go to the text settings, and let me just grab those text settings for you guys, and then we'll go over them. But again, you can follow all of the steps by going to the blog post in the description below. I'm just going to save some of your time by adding these different settings. So we're using Open Sans as the text font, which is also the default font that comes with Divi. We're changing the text color. We're using different text sizes across different screen sizes. So that's 3 VW on desktop, 5 VW on tablet, and 7 VW on phone. And we'll also use 1 EM for the text line height. And then we'll go to the spacing settings over here, and I'm just going to grab those values here as well. So we'll use 2.5 VW for the top and bottom padding on desktop, and then 3.5 for tablet and 5 for phone. So I can switch over to these two, but it will take a little bit of loading time, especially since I'm in a live stream, so my computer is, my computer memory is really full right now. So it's 2.5 VW for desktop, 3.5 VW for phone, so both top and bottom, and 5 for phone. All right. So once we have that first row, we can start adding the menu items, and to do that we'll need another row, and this time we'll use 2 columns. And I'm going to open these row settings, and I'll use one for the custom gutter width and increase the width and max width to 100% to make sure it takes up the entire width of the section container. And then I'll go to the spacing settings over here, and we'll create some custom space using the VW units. Let me just add those values really quick for you guys. So 2 VW for desktop, 4 VW for tablet, and 6 VW for phone. So both top and bottom padding are the same. And to make sure that both columns appear next to each other on smaller screen sizes, we'll also add one single line of CSS code to the main element of the row, which says display flex, and this will just help us keep that column structure across different screen sizes. And once your row settings are in place, you can start adding the menu items, and to do that we'll add blurb modules and style those blurb modules accordingly. So we'll start with a blurb module in column 1. Let me just grab the copy. So of course you'll need to add the proper copy, add the menu item to the title box over here, and then you can go to the image and icon settings, and we're going to use an icon that matches it, but you can select any icon of your choice really. So let's just see where the house is. So this is the icon that we'll use. And over here it is also important to add a link to either the entire module or just the title itself. Later on this post, actually in the next step, we're going to underline the copy over here. So I'm choosing to add it to the title only, so people can just, click here without going to that certain menu item. Okay, so the next step is modifying the icon settings, and you can style these however you want to. The way we're styling it is to make sure that it matches the layout pack. So we're using this icon color, and we're using V2VW on desktop, 3 VW on tablet, and 4 VW on phone. And then we'll go to the title text settings, and let me just paste those settings over here. So these are the changes we're going to make. So we'll use PT serif for the title font. We'll use underline. We'll use this color code for the underline color. We'll use center title text alignment, and then we'll change the text size according to the different screen sizes. So 1.8 VW for desktop, 2.3 VW for tablet, and 3.3 VW for phone. And then we can go to the body text settings. So we're just making sure that these settings match the layout pack. So we're using the same fonts, the same color palette. But of course, if you're using this for any other kind of website you're building or any kind of layout pack from our library, you can just modify, all of these values to make it match with however you want it to look and feel. So the body font is Lato. We're using center body text alignment. This is the color code that we're using for the body text color. And then we're using 0.9 VW for desktop, 1.7 VW for tablet, and 2.1 VW for phone, and 1.8 EM for the body line height. And then we're going to modify the sizing settings as well. In particular, the width, and we'll also make sure that the module alignment is center. So we're using 60% for desktop, 65% for tablet, and 80% for phone. And we'll go to the animation settings next, and by default there is a animation for the icon, and we'll just get rid of that by selecting no animation over here. So once you've finished the first blurb module, you can clone it and place it in the second column. And of course you'll need to modify the link, the icon, the text as well for each one of the menu items. I'm just going to skip that because these are some real basic steps. So just a copy over here, the icon and the link. And once you've placed the duplicate in the second column, you can clone this row twice. And change all of the other items as well. And the next step we're going to take is making the sections sticky. And to do that, we'll open the section settings once again, and we'll go to the advanced tab. And over here, we're going to add the following lines of CSS code. So position fixed and top 0. And you'll also need to make sure that you enable the hover option over here and add a fixed position to the hover option as well. So this will make sure that everything stays in place. And over here, make sure, let me just save this page over here. So this is the initial design that we have right now, and now you get to pick an option. So the first option is creating a section on hover, and the second one is a section on click. So it really depends on the user experience that you want to create. So the hover menu behaves like a click menu on smaller devices, but on desktop it'll activate once you hover it. So we'll start off with the hover option. I'm just going to open these section settings. So to make this work on hover, there are only a few things you will need to change within the section settings. So I'm just going to open these over here. So the only thing you will need to modify are the sizing settings in their default state and in their hover state. And let me just grab those values really quick for you guys. But again, you can find all of the different values, all of the different inputs by going to the blog post in the description below if you want to read through everything step by step. All right. So we're modifying the width along with the height. Let me just switch over to Visual Builder so you guys can see it. So what we're basically doing is we're shrinking the width of our section to 8 VW on desktop, 12 VW on tablet, and 20 VW on phone. And then we'll also assign a specific height, which is 7.4 VW for desktop, 12 VW for tablet, and 16 VW for phone. Now, if we switch to hover, we're using 80%. You can really play around with these values to make it look exactly the way you want to. And we're using 100 VH for the hover height value. So these are the only steps you will need to take to achieve one that looks like this. Let's switch over to mobile view. All right, so now we have the first method, and now we can focus on the click modus, which was again this one. And to do that, we'll need a little bit of jQuery code. Let me just reset those sizing settings that we've applied for the hover effects. All right. I'm just going to grab those sizing settings that we need for the click modus. Okay, so let's start with some CSS classes that we need to add. The first one we'll need to add will be assigned to the first text module containing that icon. We'll go to the Advanced tab and add this CSS class. It says full width open. And then we'll also add a CSS class to the section. And then we're going to modify the width values and the height values and the sizing settings over here. So actually these are the same as for the hover one, but the only thing that you will need to do is disable the hover option. Let me just do that. If I can get this hover icon to show up. Let me just refresh the page really quick for you guys. All right, so I'm just gonna go to the sizing settings over here, and I just can't seem to Okay, let me just add those values manually. So 8 VW for the width. Okay, no. And the height will be modified as well. So 8 VW for the width. And 7.4 VW for desktop. And then we'll switch over to tablet. And that'll be 12 VW for both options. And over here we'll use 20 VW for the width and 16 VW for the height. All right, so these are the values that we need. And I will just need some jQuery code for it to work. So I'm just going to add a new row to the bottom of this section and add a code module to it. And then just simply insert a few lines of jQuery code. So you can find the code by going to the blog post in the description below. So what this will basically do is create a toggle effect for the section container. And we'll also need to add a bit of CSS code that will put this to practice. So to do that, we'll just open the page settings and go to the custom CSS box and add the following CSS code, which you can also find in the blog posts by going to it in the description below. Let's just take a quick look at it. Right, so this is the click modus. So what we've done is we've added a CSS class to the text module containing the menu icon. We've added a CSS class to the section itself. Then we've added a code module to a separate row. Really doesn't matter where you place the code module, with some jQuery code that allows the toggle effect to happen. And we've also added some CSS code to the page settings, and you can grab all of that code and all of the steps, all of the values by going to the blog post in the description below. So, all right, so that was all for this live stream tutorial. We hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in our next live stream or video.